Alright, so we've already done one read through of this poem, and let's just review what we did in the first read through. We circled tricky words and we identified their meaning using context clues. We circled seldom and we said, okay, we know that now means rarely. We circled sullen and we figured out that that means sad. And then I had you figure out two words on your own. Hopefully you figured out that quarrel means fight, and the way you could have figured this out is it says must they quarrel and strike, and we know strike means hit, and so must they quarrel and hit. Well, hitting is a type of fighting, so it must be talking about must they fight, and then it tells us no they don't. The other word, obliging, hopefully you figured out that that means willing. The way you would have figured this out is the narrator is summing up what the girls are like throughout the whole poem, and we know that the girls are kind and good girls, but also that they're willing to help each other, and they're willing to help their parents, and so it must mean willing. Okay, so we did our first read through, and we circled tricky words, and we used context clues to determine their meaning. Now it's time for me to show you what we do on our second read through. I want to teach you that on our second read through, we need to find the gist of each stanza. Let me show you how I do that. Let's read the first stanza again. Two good little children named Mary and Anne both happily live as good girls can, and though they are not either sullen or mute, they seldom or never are heard to dispute. So the narrator tells me there's two characters, Mary and Anne. They're good girls who are happy. And we talked about they're not sullen, and we said sullen means sad, so they're not sad, they're happy. And they're not mute, which means quiet, so they're talkative, they're not mute. And they seldom or never are heard to dispute, they never argue. So Mary and Anne are good girls who are happy and talkative, but they don't ever fight or argue. Okay, now we're ready to move on to stanza number 2. If one wants a thing that the other would like, well, what do? Must they quarrel and strike? No, each is so willing to give up her own that such disagreements are there never known. So they don't ever fight. It tells us that. We said, must they quarrel and strike? No, if one girl has what the other girl wants, they're just willing to give up her own. So I wrote, they don't fight over things, they share. They're willing to give up their own. They're willing to share. They're not going to fight over it. Now we're ready to move on to the next stanza. If one of them happens to have something nice, directly she offers her sister a slice, and never like some greedy children would try to eat in a corner with nobody by. So it says, if one girl has something nice, she offers her sister a slice. So I kind of imagine one girl having cake and the other girl wanting some, and she just offered it up, and that's pretty generous. That's the opposite of greedy. They're not greedy. They're generous, and so I said, they're not greedy, and they are generous. The third stanza reads, when Papa or Mama has a job to be done, these good little children immediately run, nor dispute whether this or the other should go. They would be ashamed to behave themselves so. Okay, so when Mama or Papa has a job to be done, that's like chores, right? When there are chores to be done, the girls come running, and they don't argue or dispute whether this or the other should go. They're not arguing over who should do it. They both come running and offer to help their parents because they would never behave any other way. So they offer to help their parents. Pretty simple way to sum up what it said, but that's what we're trying to do. The gist is just a simple way to sum up what we read. Finally, the last stanza says, whatever occurs in their work or their play, they are willing to yield and give up their own way. Then now let us try their example to mind, and always, like them, be obliging and kind. So it's telling us, no matter what happens, whatever occurs in their work or play, they're willing to yield and give up their own way. They're willing to compromise. So the girls are willing to compromise. And then the narrator says, then now let us take their example to mind. So it's telling us to think about how these girls behave, what example they've set, and always, like them, be obliging and kind. And it's telling us we should be more like them. So now we found the gist of all 4 stanzas, and we're ready to move on to the final step. And the final step is to fill out a 4-square chart. So make sure you watch the next video to learn how to fill out a 4-square chart, which will help you